Have you ever opened a jar of flower and were immediately hit by smells of lemons or pine, lavender, black pepper, fresh fruit, or gasoline? Those smells aren't just random and they're not added to flower to make them smell good. Hi, my name's Sydney. I'm one of the co-founders of Restart, and today we're talking all about terpenes. A lot of what you're smelling when it comes to opening a jar of bud comes from compounds called terpenes. And if you shop for flower recently, you've probably seen terpenes described almost like personality traits. Myrcene makes you sleepy. Limonene is supposed to make you happy. Pinene helps you focus. But is it really that simple? Not quite. So today we're gonna do a true beginner's guide to terpenes. We're gonna talk about what terpenes are, whether cannabis terpenes are different from terpenes found in other plants, because yes, they can be found not just in cannabis, but other plants. Why they matter when you're choosing flower, why they may or may not contribute to how cannabis makes you feel, and why some companies, including Restart, add terpenes back to things like gummies, chocolates, oils, and just other edibles. And most importantly, we're gonna separate what we actually know from what is in most cannabis marketing. Before we get started, this video is for educational purposes only. This is not for medical advice, and no terpene can guarantee that a product will make you feel a certain way. So, what exactly is a terpene? Terpenes are aromatic compounds produced throughout nature. They help give an orange peel its bright citrus smell. They help lavender smell floral, pine tree smell sharp and fresh, hops smell hoppy, and black pepper smell spicy. Cannabis actually produces many of these compounds naturally as well. The plant stores a lot of terpenes in its trichomes, which are those tiny crystal-like resin glands that cover the flower. If you look deep into a microscope, you might see something frosty or wet looking that cover the flower that is fresh and good bud. And those trichomes also contain things like cannabinoids. The most well-known ones are, of course, THC and CBD. And I hate to break it to you, but cannabis doesn't just produce terpenes because they know we're gonna like the smell. In nature, these terpenes actually help the plant interact with its environment. They can attract pollinators, discourage pests, or help the plant respond to stress. For us, their most obvious job is aroma and flavor. They're the reason one strain of flower can smell earthy and peppery, while another one may smell like citrusy or gassy, even though both products might contain a similar amount of THC in them. Now, this is a question we hear all the time. Are cannabis-derived terpenes actually better than botanical-derived terpenes? First, the phrase botanical terpenes simply means terpenes that were sourced from plants that are not cannabis. For example, limonene may come from a citrus peel. Linalool is abundant in lavender. Pinene, as the name states, can come from pine and other herbs. Myrcene is actually also found in hops and thyme. Beta-caryophyllene is found in black pepper, cloves, and hops as well. So there is also some crossover here. Cannabis in itself does not own any of these molecules. If you isolate the same form of limonene, for example, at the exact same purity, that molecule doesn't remember whether it came from cannabis or another plant. The important difference isn't that individual molecule, it is the complete blend around that molecule. A cannabis-derived terpene extract may capture a more complicated fingerprint from a particular cannabis flower or batch. A botanical blend is usually assembled by combining terpenes from several different plant sources. That blend might be designed to imitate a specific strain in the cannabis plant, or it simply might be designed to produce a more citrusy or piney or herbal flavor or aroma. Botanical terpenes are also usually less expensive, more consistent, and much easier to produce at scale. Cannabis-derived profiles may smell a lot more like the original strain, but they can also be a lot more expensive and vary batch to batch. I say that saying that neither source is automatically better than the other, stronger than the other, or safer than the other. What matters is the actual composition, purity, freshness, testing, sourcing, and whether the ingredient is appropriate for the product it's going into. There's also something important that terpene marketing usually leaves out. Terpenes are not responsible for every smell in cannabis. Researchers have found that sulfur compounds and other volatile flavor molecules can make a huge difference, even when they are present in very small amounts. These compounds can help create that skunky, gassy, tropical, fruity, and savory savory notes people notice in flower, which explains why you may see two strains with similar terpene profiles, but one may smell completely different than the other. And a standard lab test only reports the compounds it was designed to measure. Your nose might actually be detecting things that test may not include. So while a terpene panel is really useful, it may not be the whole map or whole picture of what's actually going on inside the flower. The profile can actually change a lot before it even reaches you as the consumer. Genetics actually create that starting point, but the growing environment, the temperature, the light, the plant's health, the harvest timing, drying, curing, packaging, and storage can also all affect the aroma. And terpenes are volatile, which means they can evaporate, especially when they're exposed to heat, oxygen, light, or simply too much time. This is one of the reasons that the same strain from two different growers might smell completely different. It's also why two batches from the exact same grower might be different. So the strain names give you a clue, right? It's like any recipe. Maybe it's not perfect every time, but you try to get pretty damn close. The chemistry of the actual batch is going to give you the better picture. Now we need to answer one of the biggest questions. Do terpenes actually change the way cannabis makes you feel? The most honest and simply put answer is maybe, but the science doesn't necessarily support treating them like predictable mood buttons. Terpenes can actually have biological activities. Scientists have studied their effects on receptors, enzymes, and signaling systems in cells and animals. Beta-caryophyllene is especially interesting because it can interact with the CB2 receptor, which is part of the endocannabinoid system, without creating the traditional intoxicating effect associated with THC. But there's also the caveat, laboratory activity does not necessarily going to tell us what we're going to feel like when we smoke or use that strain. Research have been studying what's called also the entourage effect. Maybe you've heard of it. We've also mentioned in a couple of other our videos. The basic idea is that cannabinoids, terpenes, flavonoids, other compounds may interact and create an experience that's just much different than an isolated product. There is some evidence supporting this, but as we know in cannabis, the research is a little bit lacking, but people are working on more and more research every year. So that means that the entourage effect is a really solid scientific question to ask, but it's not necessarily a proven rule that allows us to predict how a product's gonna really make you feel. One controlled human study published in 2024 gives us a good example of both the promise and the limitations. In that study, 20 adults inhaled THC, limonene, a combination of the two, or a placebo during different sessions. At the highest tested combination, limonene reduced some ratings of feeling anxious, nervous, and paranoid compared with THC by itself. Now, that part is really interesting, and it gives researchers a reason to keep studying the effects of limonene, but it doesn't prove that every citrusy smelling flower is going to reduce your anxiety. The study also used isolated compounds that were inhaled. It was small, and the highest dose condition included only 12 participants. So obviously, again, the research is a little bit lacking. We like to see studies with more people involved over a wide range, but this is what we got for now. It also doesn't prove that adding limonene to a gummy is going to produce a very similar effect to smoking, which matters because inhaled cannabis does not interact with your body the same way that an edible interacts with your body. And we know this because we just covered it in one of our latest videos, which you can go watch. So although we talk a lot about terpenes, we actually talk a lot about terpenes in the store when you come in, and when people ask about strains, how they want to feel, we tell them not just to take the THC or CBD content into account, but to look at the terpenes involved as a big picture. But when someone outwardly is like, well, this terpene will give you this result, take it with a grain of salt and know that that terpene is probably acting synergistically with other compounds in the plant. Because again, your experience is being shaped by the amount of THC, CBD, flavonoids, CBG, other minor cannabinoids, whether you inhaled or ate the product, your tolerance level, your body's metabolism, your surroundings, and even how you felt before using the product. Dose is especially important. A product that feels really comfortable at a low dose might feel way different at a higher dose, no matter which terpene is dominant. Think about it in the same way as a 5 milligram low dose gummy compared to a 20 milligram higher dose gummy. Just because you add limonene to it doesn't mean that you're gonna automatically be calm because of that high dose gummy. You're gonna make sure that you're watching the dose along with the terpenes that are involved in that product, because terpenes don't cancel out the THC. And why the terms indica, sativa, and hybrid aren't guaranteed results either. Although those terms are really easy to use in our industry and something that the public is really familiar with when it comes to talking about cannabis, sativa, hybrid, and indica are honestly just words thrown onto a strain. It can make one person feel one way and another person feel the other way. You really just have to try a product in order to see how it affects you. Again, those labels help with more of the broad shopping categories. So if you want to use it as a tool to filter out through certain things, I think that's a great way to look at it. But don't just be set in stone. Well, like, oh, if I'm smoking an indica product, it's gonna make me couch locked. Or if I'm smoking a sativa product, it's gonna make me feel really high anxiety. That's not always the case. Modern cannabis has been crossbred extensively. The label alone doesn't consistently tell you the product's chemistry or predict how you're gonna feel. Looking at the actual cannabinoids and terpenes will give you a better picture. But again, the call out, just because there's a detailed lab report doesn't mean that you're also going to feel those exact effects. So take everything into account, but do your research and try it yourself. You know your body best. Start low, go slow, and see what works for you. With all this in mind, let's go through some of the terpenes that you might see the most of out in the market. Myrcene is one of the top talked about terpenes, and it's the one that's most prevalent in a lot of cannabis strains. It usually smells earthy, musky, herbal, or a little bit like cloves. It is often associated with more relaxing flower and the famous idea of couch lock. You may even notice a pattern in your own experience. But again, there's not strong human evidence that proves any of this. Limonene, on the other hand, has a bright and citrus aroma. Think of limonene, lemon, bright and airy. It often gives people the uppity, energetic feeling. Linalool smells more floral and lavender-like. Because people associate lavender with calm, think about if you've ever gone to a spa or a post-workout class and they have the lavender towels, or they give you a scent to relax with. Lavender is one of those herbal terpenes that helps you relax. And linalool has actually shown some interesting activity in early research, because linalool products are often described as very calming. But again, think of this description as a clue, not a full-on guarantee. Alpha pinene, beta pinene, you can just call it pinene honestly, is gonna give you that pine, fresh, and herbal scent. They're often marketed for alertness, clarity, and focus. Beta-caryophyllene is more peppery, woody, and spicy notes. It's also present in black pepper and cloves. And this one is very different than the other terpenes because it interacts with your CB2 receptors, versus the other terpenes just don't interact in the same way. Humulene has more of an earthy, woody, hoppy aroma. It often appears beside beta-caryophyllene, which makes a lot of sense because both of these are found in hops and other herbal compounds. And lastly, terpenylene. It can smell floral, fresh, and citrusy all at the same time. It often appears in bud that's marketed as more energetic, but again, I don't know how many times I can say it, take it all with a grain of salt. So how can you actually use this terpene information while shopping for cannabis strains yourself? First, I'd recommend starting with the cannabinoid information, right? How much THC, CBD, and other minor cannabinoids are present, because dose and cannabinoid ratio matter the most in my opinion. Then look at the whole terpene profile in that strain. Instead of focusing on one dominant terpene, look at the top 3. On our website, when we were selling a lot of flower, RIP, we don't sell it anymore, but we would list a lot of different terpenes, or the top 3 that were found in that plant according to the COAs that were tested. But if you go to a website like Leafly, you'll see that you can filter out different strains by terpenes and effects, along with percents of THC that are about average found across the board. Again, Leafly is like a dictionary, it's a guiding source. By no means is OG Kush the same across all states and all strains, or Blue Dream, which is a really popular one. So just make sure if you're doing a lot of research on your flower, vapes, other edibles with terpenes in them, you can head to Leafly, and they're a really great resource that has all these listed. Then after you've done your terpene research, pay attention to the aromas. What do you tend to enjoy? Is it more citrusy, more floral, more dank, earthy, gassy? Your own repeated experience may be way more useful than just a generic chart telling you what you're supposed to feel like. So if you really want to get into the weeds with it, then make sure to keep a note on your phone and take note. I had Blue Dream today. This is what I liked about it. Maybe what you didn't like about it. I liked the feeling, I didn't like the smell, or vice versa. And just make notes about how these different strains are making you feel. And you'll maybe sort of see some patterns. Is it the amount of THC? Are they actually indica? Is there crossover between myrcene of all of these strains? So once you start to gather this information, it'll make your shopping that much easier because you're not just guessing on what you're gonna feel like. You can actually buy based on how you want to feel, based on your own research that you're collecting. For sure, freshness also matters. A strong aroma doesn't prove that it's a better strain or a better flower, but flower that smells flat, stale, or even halite may have lost a lot of its volatile compounds during storage or transport. Good shopping practices still include looking at test results, packaging, if you can find the harvest information, and reputation of the producer. Now that we've talked about flower, I do want to talk about edibles because you'll find terpenes in edibles as well. We even sell a couple here at Resort that have terpenes added back into the formula. Now you might be asking, why would a manufacturer even add terpenes back into an edible? The most straightforward reason is flavor and aroma, but also obviously there are effects associated with them. Limonene can add a bright citrusy note to an already citrus flavored gummy. A complete terpene blend, like if you're doing Maui Wowie or Grape Ape, can give a product a more cannabis-like feel. So if you're someone who's smoked Grape Ape, then you're gonna like it in a gummy as well because it has that same terpene profile. But the caveat is adding a terpene profile back into the blend doesn't guarantee that it's gonna make it feel the exact same way as that strain if it were smoked. The gummy also uses a different route of administration, right? THC is processed differently when you eat it. It goes through your liver, it gets broken down, and flower may have contained other minor cannabinoids that may not be present in an edible. That's why when you're buying these products, although we add certain terpene profiles to our gummies or label them as day, hybrid, or night, these are things that we're adding to it to give people the idea of, okay, if I'm looking for something nighttime, maybe this will be good for this. It's a good roadmap, but by no means does that mean that it is the end-all be-all truth of what it's going to make you feel like. Again, cannabinoids come into play, ratios come into play, so it is the full picture we're looking for here. Something to note is that formulating with terpenes also is something that needs to be very precise. Concentrated terpenes are really, really strong, and more does not equal better. Too much terpenes and your gummy can taste perfume-like or too harsh, and concentrated ingredients can actually cause some irritation. A lot of terpenes also don't mix well in water, so beverage and gummy manufacturers may use an oil base, an encapsulation, or another tested delivery system. So I say this to say, obviously we work with a manufacturer who's manufacturing these gummies for us, but they have done all the research, we've tried these products intensively, and we're making sure that we're not adding too much, we're making sure the testing comes out properly, and we're making sure that you're getting the best experience, even if we're adding terpenes to it. We're being very, very careful and cautious about it. Heat can also be another challenge because terpenes are volatile. High temperatures and very long processing times can actually cause them to evaporate or change. A really good manufacturer has to actually think about when is the terpene being added into this product, because that'll change how much heat and oxygen it encounters along the way, whether it remains evenly distributed, and how the packaging protects it over time. The terpene ingredient actually also needs to be appropriate for food. Not all terpenes are actually food safe. Again, responsible manufacturers should have all of this testing done, supplier documentation, ingredient specifications, batch records, appropriate testing, and a validated amount for the intended product. And you can buy terpenes. You at home, while you're sitting down watching this video, can buy terpenes online. be careful with them, right? You don't want to add too much if you're doing this at home. So let's recap and bring everything together. Terpenes are a major part of what gives cannabis its aroma, flavor, and sensory personality. Cannabis and other botanical plants can produce very similar terpenes. The difference between cannabis-derived terpenes and botanical-derived terpenes is usually found in the complete profile: trace compounds, processing, consistency, and testing. That means that something like myrcene doesn't differ directly from botanical to cannabis, but it does mean that there might be more of a strain-specific, well-rounded compound that has myrcene in it versus a isolated myrcene form. Terpenes may and can contribute to the overall cannabis experience, and the science is definitely worth following, but they do not behave like guaranteed moon buttons. THC dose, cannabinoids, minor cannabinoids, route of administration, tolerance, metabolism, environment, lifestyle can all have a much larger effect in how these interact in your body. When you're looking at flower, look beyond the THC. It doesn't always mean that more THC is stronger or that indica means indicouch. So look at more than the THC profile in your bud. You can also look at the batch specific profile of different terpenes or different strains. If the dispensary allows you, you can actually smell the product. So pay attention to, again, freshness, colors if you can see them, and keep a journal or notes of what's working really well in your body. When you're shopping for an edible with added terpenes, just make sure that there's proper COAs, proper testing, the label is really clear on what's in it, and realistic language. Make sure it doesn't overpromise on what it's selling to you. Terpenes overall give us a really great vocabulary for what's actually happening in cannabis. They help us understand why different flower smells differently and tastes so different, and with more research, they may actually help us understand why they make us feel a certain way. But for now, the most accurate way to use terpenes is as a guide and to help you have a better shopping experience. If this video helped you understand terpenes, you can go ahead and subscribe to our channel. We obviously appreciate the support and share a lot of educational videos here on Restart. And if you have a specific terpene profile or strain that you really love, definitely leave it in the comments. I'm always just curious to see what people are drawn to. We'll keep breaking down cannabis, cannabinoids, terpene profiles, legal stuff going on in Texas and beyond as plainly and simply as possible. So for today, I think that's it. Oh, before we go, make sure to go also follow us on Instagram at RestartCBD, and you can go check out all of our products at restartcbd.com. If you have any questions, comments, or concerns, hopefully no concerns, you can leave them down in the comments, but I think that's it. So we'll see you in the next video. Bye.